So, welcome back to season 4 of Get to the Joke. I am honored to have Todd Glass with me today. Todd, originally from the suburbs of Philadelphia, who now lives in Los Angeles, has made appearances on The Tonight Show, Tosh.0, Comedy Central Presents, and Louie, just to name a small portion of those credits. His popular podcast, The Todd Glass Show, can be heard via his website, www.toddglass.com, and YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. He has an amazing special on Netflix called Act Happy and tours with the Todd Glass Band nationally. All right. Now I want to talk about how I know Todd Glass, which I don't. I never met Todd Glass before till today, but I fell in love with Todd watching the second season of Last Comic Standing and was fortunate to see Todd again come back for season 3. I followed his career, seeing him live at Helium Comedy Club, buying his album Thin Pig off of Amazon, and listened to the iconic WTF with Marc Maron episode, which led to the amazing autobiography, which I now own. The Todd Glass situation is also worth noting that Todd is one of the best TV shows of all time, which is the Todd Glass Awful Prank Show, which I please go YouTube that. And Todd and I share a very thin thread of I host PJ Ryan's, which he started back in the day, which we will talk about. And I think that Todd personifies all that is good with stand-up comedy. Todd, thank you for letting me go through that huge bio. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I'm only saying this because it doesn't really matter. You would have known because I just decided it like 2 weeks ago, but I'm not going to do the podcast anymore.
You're not? No. What?
No.
Is this?
I know, right?
What's going on? Was the podcast something that just came out of because you had the other podcast before with Jimmy Dore, and now you had your own? I did. Go ahead.
I did the last one for 12 years. And the only reason I'm saying it, I bet other people go through the same thing. Like, you want to go, why am I still doing this? And can I stop doing something that I overwhelmingly fucking love?
Yeah.
And that was the problem. I thought, well, and then one day I decided, I never got tired of doing the show. Like, when the guests were in here, that was always fun. Yeah. That was to the last, and I haven't done my last show yet. I wanted to take a little time and put something really cool together and not have to hurry it. So until then, I just been doing those no-show shows right into my phone, and they're like 10 minutes long. Yeah. But I didn't like booking guests, and as much fun as it was, and believe me, there's only two besides my friends and family, business-wise, my stand-up and my podcast. That podcast, it's a crazy intimate relationship you have with the listeners. But it was a lot of work, and I didn't like booking guests. That's why I mostly had family shows. And I realized a lot of the joy that I get from it, was the pivotal moment for me, was in the studio. And it sort of naturally pivoted a different way that, doing the sort of TikTok and paying a lot more attention to Instagram. I realized that's what I'll do. I'll have people, maybe some of them I know them from TikTok, maybe comedians, but I'll invite them into this space. So usually they'd come in here, I'd have the band play them in, make them feel special, and then we'd move over and do a podcast. Yeah. Maybe now they'll come in and we'll meet new people, and they'll, instead of moving over to do a podcast after we say hi, we'll just create content. Yeah. And do funny things. And it's less work for me. I don't have to have the producer. And then it was just, it came every week. It came very quick. And so I decided, but it is hard. To stop it. I got used to it.
Well, so I mean, does it go into, is the reason that you're stopping is because, I mean, you've always been very visible about how much you love hanging out with comics. That is pretty much your life energy, is the hangout that you get with comics. Is it because the comics, the booking, all the business stuff has kind of muddied that, and so you're not really, is that okay?
No, everybody, comics, that all your friends do get busier over the years, and it's harder to get people sometimes. And it was every week. Yeah. That it came every week. And that for me was a little, and that I don't have to stop having a fun time in the studio. I'm going to reconfigure it. I'm going to put in a real stage. And, when I'm in the mood to do it, maybe let's say a traditional podcast, maybe something happens socially, or I want to talk about comedy clubs like I've but it's sort of traditional podcasts. Instead of at the table, we'll sit at the sofas, and then but it's not that I don't have to do it every week. It's when I'm in the mood to do, and I'm sure I will be. I'll just drop it somewhere, maybe on YouTube. I don't even know yet. Maybe on Instagram, and I'll go, hey, by the way, me and blah, blah, blah sat down for an hour and we talked about this.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll put it out into the universe.
Yeah.
Because that I miss already. And I keep reminding myself that I can still do it. I'll see something that makes me laugh or inspires me. And usually what I do is I send an email to, to myself. And that way, when I do the show, and that's been weird because I'm like, oh, well, you have the last one, but eventually, what are you going to do with this stuff that you want to share with people?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is it just because it's a lot of work on you? Would it be beneficial to have somebody come in and help you with like the booking and the editing and that kind of, or do you like that kind of control?
No, I didn't even do any of the editing.
Oh, okay.
I had like 98% no edits.
Okay.
Aristotle, who's been with the show from day one, I would send the show to him. But I always had to have a tech person. I tried to do it without it. I almost thought I won the battle. It's just too risky. It's too unprofessional to drop shows that sound like shit. And then I go, okay, so I always have to have it. If Aristotle's not available, I used to try to do it without him. I can't.
Yeah.
Too many shows got fucked up.
Yeah.
So, because he's listening to the whole show. If one guest is too loud and I sing too loud, or he's there, he does, it might not seem like a lot.
Yeah.
And then someone to do the drop. So it was just, it wasn't that it was the amount of work. It was that it came every week.
Yeah.
And the way I'm doing it now is more, a little more casual.
Well, that's what this is. I don't do anything every week. I couldn't keep up with it. This is just me doing this whenever I feel like I can get a good guest, and then I kind of bottle them up, and then hopefully in a month I can drop everybody at once kind of deal. So
right. And by the way, I'm not talking about a podcast as the vehicle. Vehicle,
there's a lot of work.
Some people love doing it every week, and I get why. So did I. And there's some people have been doing it for 20, I believe there's people that do it every week and get joy out of it. And those people obviously, so I'm not trying to go, well, the thing with podcasting is with everybody, it's individual. For me, it pivoted towards doing the content and not have to do it every week.
But you're somebody.
And by the way, also let me say there was a period. I want to be really clear with it because it is something that's really close to my heart.
It's a part of you. Yeah.
I didn't have to do it every week. I wanted to do it every week.
Okay.
It wasn't a chore for me to do the podcast, but there is some work involved, as you know, and anybody doing a podcast, and so that's, but it was more than one thing. It was like 10 things. And like I said, the pivotal thing was you can just do fun things in the studio still with your comedian friends. Yeah.
Well, it's cool. So it's not like you're stopping creating content. It's just the Todd Glass show is kind of pivoting a little bit and how it's going to be in the future. I like it. It's cool. You've always been very candid about that comedy and comedians and yourself should always grow, that no one should kind of rest on their laurels, that comics should always be trying to make themselves better, work harder, kind of keep doing that. So what is next now for you, Todd? What is the kind of next big project you're working on, or the next kind of thing you are looking to do?
Well, that's a good question. And then maybe that has to do with why all of a sudden I didn't want that responsibility every week at this time now, because what I'm trying to do, and I've been trying to do it for a while, is I want to do the show that I do on the road with the band, but like maybe a month in New York.
Yeah.
And be presented by another comedian, like basically putting a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
And so you have to get someone to present you. And that could be like a number of people that just saying it like it is, that are more famous than you and have the money to. And I wouldn't be the first person to ask. Like, Mike Birbiglia presented somebody a few years ago. So people do it. And so that's what my new manager and I are going to do. We put it out to like 15 or 20 people and say, hey, would you like to present, Todd? So putting it together, it's and getting and really working on that show. I don't want my stand-up I want that to be good, the band bits. So putting that together has been a lot of work. And I want it more than I'll be honest, I want it more than anything in life right now. Like I want to fucking do this show. I know what it can be. And especially if you put money into it and you were at one place where you had real tech people and a whole day to do lighting. And so
are you talking about kind of like what Mike Birbiglia did with like his Broadway show where it was kind of like autobiographical?
No, that was
okay.
Mike doing it for himself. Mike presented Alex Edelman. I'm probably saying his last name wrong, but comedians have done it over the years.
Yeah,
like Jerry Seinfeld presents
Ryan Hamilton. And, no, I was saying, like, is your show kind of like a one-man show, or is it still the stand-up show with the band, or is it like a one-man?
You know, that's a good question too, because in the video pitch, we're making it right now. I make that really clear up front, you know, because it's an edited show. It's not the whole show. When they're going to see highlights, and I didn't want them right up front. I go, hey, by the way, this is a stand-up comedy show. If that's what you're craving, and it's not a new one. It's not a new concept that I hope works, or it works. I've been touring with it for a long time, and I care about stand-up, and I work fucking hard at it.
Oh, you do?
It's that with a lot of production around it.
Okay.
Which I also enjoy. The band, you know. I go off. But...
Hi. I'm assuming if you're still watching at this point that you're enjoying the episode. If you like this episode and you want to see more, please do me a small favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is awesome. I love seeing subscribers go up. That means people are enjoying what I'm doing, which makes me feel good. So please do that if you're really liking this. And if you want to, check out my website, markstod.com. Please feel free to contact me on the website. I respond to every email. Every email I respond to. Leave a comment. And the thing too, I get back to most of those as well. And that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
No, that's something about you. There's this aura about you, Todd. I've seen your show live many times. I've seen it at the Comedy Cabaret in Doylestown. I've seen it at Helium. I've seen it in both. It's you when you book Todd Glass, you are getting an experience where people go to a club show and they get 45 to an hour of a stand-up. They are getting much more than that. You get there early, you set the room exactly in the way it needs to be so that the entire audience is engaged from the time it starts. And not from the time that you get there, but from the time the show, the last butt is in the seat until they're walking out the door. It is a production. So I can only imagine what you're going to be doing with like a ton of money behind it. I mean, it should be incredible.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you saying that. I really do, because I do, not just like as a line or the second they fucking get in the front door, I want it to, and it can. And you know what? Relatively, I mean, I do it at comedy clubs with the time I have. Mostly the problem doing it is if the club will let me. But when I met with, look, doesn't mean when I leave Helium doesn't maybe tease me a little or change some things back. They've also kept a lot of things and done a lot of things that I've said. So that's a club that they let me pretty much do whatever I want. So it starts at the entryway. And then, you know, I notice little things like if I walk by a coat closet and it's not being used for now a year, so it's turned into a storage closet, which is fine. Now, I don't want customers to walk by that. I'm thinking that's the outside world. So if they go down the hallway into the bar, I want it to be fucking blue and sexy. No, nothing on the TV. It's like make them forget about the world. And overwhelmingly, that stuff to really elongate the evening. Is cheap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People do think they get a bargain seeing you. I would say, and let's see if you agree with this analogy, Todd. I think going to see a Todd Glass show is like going to Disney World or Disneyland, where you go into a bubble where you almost forget the outside world exists. You're going into a very manufactured environment so that you have that optimizes every second of your time so that you are experiencing something that is as pure to comedy as anything that has ever existed. Would you agree or not agree with that analogy?
Well, first of all, of course, I'm going to thank you. I mean, obviously, when someone says kind things like that, it makes you feel good. And also, you said it very succinctly. And one time I was talking to Jim Gaffigan, and he said something interesting. Number one, once out of the blue, sometimes I wonder if I drive him crazy or all my comedian friends, would agree with it. Does anyone fucking get it? Like, really? Does it anger anybody but me how cheap ambiance is? And clubs you see them, some of them are struggling. Everybody could afford to do better. People see the ambience. Look, I don't like food being served during a show. I mean, if it's going to be served, serve it right. But I'm saying that I don't want to encourage food, but I'll go ahead and say it. It'll make your food sales higher.
Yeah.
Because when they get there and they walk into that room and they're like, oh, and the next time they're coming, which by the way, that happens sometimes 3 months later, a month later, they're going to think of that's not the food's pretty good actually. And the atmosphere is certainly fucking, I love it there.
Yeah.
Their food sales are going to go up. And also it makes the show start on time when you create a nice place for people to eat. The only good thing about food is sometimes it can help the show start on time. You have less people coming from other places eating dinner, you know? So we'll go there and eat. But when I was one time, Jim, out of nowhere, he goes, you know what's funny? What I just said, ambiance is like almost free. I go, right. And every time we would walk into these speakeasies, because we'd be on the road in the middle of nowhere, but there's always like, every city has some people you don't know that has, so they're speakeasies, and they're usually like, they fucking get it. Not like a speakeasy because it's in Omaha down in that. They get, it's like New York, it's like New York City get it. And every time Jim would say it, and he asked me if I was tired of hearing him say it, and I go, no, it fills my soul. When we walked in, he'd go, so this isn't where people should be sitting while they're waiting to see a show? Like, why do you, and it's not the money. It's not the money.
Yeah.
If it was the money, I would think about it. Go, oh, it's the money. Yeah, it costs a little more. It doesn't. It was just the tones and everything was dark. It doesn't cost more to do. And then he'd say it every time. So this isn't, because we're both thinking it's exactly where they should be before they watch a show.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So I mean, you're Todd Glass, and you can do that kind of thing where you can come into a club and this is how it's going to be. What is some advice that you could give, like myself and other comics who probably feature in bar shows, hosting some or hosting some like A clubs that you say, or whatever you want? How is something that we can do as a low tier comic on the totem pole to kind of make that, to kind of bring the, because you had to start doing that at some point. You didn't just start doing it when you became an A-list comic. So like, what are some things that we can do now that you kind of started doing to kind of get in the heads of club producers?
You know, a lot of them, I have an expression, and I believe me, I remember it myself. Like I do okay in Philadelphia. I have a nice draw, but other markets. But I have an expression: you can't be more of a pain in the ass than you are a draw. Yeah. So it's sort of what you're asking, you know. And by the way, I probably push it in certain markets. There's not big things, but you'd be surprised. The littlest things, they don't know that they all over the years. You know, they all go at the fire marshal right away. No matter what you want, they go, the fire marshal won't let us do it. It's like, you know, I've been down this road before. I've heard that they always go, can we put a curtain up there to block that light? Not a fire marshal. They would go right to the fire marshal. So when you're doing bar shows, you know, you do, I guess, by the way, I talk about this all the time on a million podcasts. I always think I hit it from a different angle, and I always enjoy talking about it, but I just want to, out of my paranoia, if someone says, oh, Todd, if you want to go, then I don't want to ask you any more questions about it. I'll move on.
No, I could talk to you about forever about anything, man. I just, to be able to get into your head is incredible. So go ahead, talk as much as you want about it.
I think for like those bar shows, like, I mean, because I'll go right to that, or because there's two questions. One, for when you are at a comedy club, what type of those things can you implement? I mean, to tell you the truth, like, okay, so you're a headliner. And by the way, this is me, and you know, probably in some markets, I'm not talking like, you know, but let's say no one's there to see you. Let's just say that you're an act, you're good, and you do the job, and you even work for them maybe 2-3 times a year. Like you're there, you do a good job, and the club loves you, and you headline there, and you'll middle if they need. You're one of those guys. There's some things, but I'm being honest. There are a lot of things you can't do. You know, like Brian Regan was able to, when he was still at comedy clubs, there'd be no food or check drops in the first 2 rows. And boy, to be able to do that, when you're packing clubs, you're doing, 6 shows in a week. They're all no free tickets, all prepaid. They're coming to eat. They're making, they're making a shit ton of money. Yeah, if you say, okay. Now I ask when I'm at Helium, no food. I go, as long as they're not getting food after the show starts.
Yeah.
And no check drop in the first row.
Yeah.
But I'm not big enough to go to the second row yet, or I'm scared that I'm not. But
one day, Todd, you get the second row.
But at a bar show, I don't know. It's like I always say, like, there's
I guess
probably more at bar shows. What?
I was gonna say, what was the first thing you did? Because you would have started when the whole atmosphere. I like, what was the first thing that was easily doable from when you started
that's
coming
a
up in
good
comedy?
question.
Yeah.
Like when I got to the point where I go, hey, could we bring the house lights down? Oh, we will when the show starts. I go, no, of course I know you will for that. Would you bring them down? Something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
To close off back areas
mm-hmm.
and to pitch dark them.
Mm-hmm.
No one's coming in. You don't have a curtain, and it's okay. But I try to black out those back areas. And if it means to do it, I would start doing things like, well, they go, a lot of them, they're trying with you. They're not even fighting you. They're like, it's not on separate things.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was, a night where there's only 75 people or 50, and it's a Tuesday night and I'm trying to make the most of those 50, I would go, let's black out the room and put the stage lights on, because it was such a teeny little crowd that if the stage lights were on, you could see.
Yeah.
And walking into that and seating people in that, can you just fantasize that in your head? The difference between a big room now, once they're sat in that little, they don't even know what's behind them.
Yeah, it's a
and
mood.
Once you get, you can't fluff up 20, but you know what? Actually, you can. But 50 in the right atmosphere. So things like that I started to do. And then, and there'd be clubs. I'm sure there's clubs that even say Todd's a nice guy, but I could never have him back. Not with the amount I draw.
Okay.
I'm sure,
I mean, I don't know who would not have you back. I mean, it's an incredible show.
I think you don't, when you go to start a comedy at a bar, I think you have to, I see a lot, they're afraid. You can't come right in. Oh, here's a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
If you're doing comedy and you're just trying to get a bar to let you do comedy on Thursday night, and there's certain things you can't ask for. I get it. But if off the bat they won't turn off the TVs, then go, no, then maybe this isn't the place to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're coming in, I want this. Hey, if 100 people show up 5 times in a row, then you start asking. But from the beginning, it's not like I'm going, hey, we need this, we need that. They go, no, we won't do it. And you go, fine, I'm walking. But if they won't turn the TVs, maybe that's going to save you a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, whatever that type of thing is at that place. And,
No, I appreciate that. That's great. That's great advice.
Music, by the way.
Yes.
Music. Talking about the type of act, what you can ask for. I'm sure there's a lot of acts out there that if you said, hey, I made this, a playlist, and that's the music I want them to be played while they're seating them.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of clubs would just, oh, okay. And this is after I say goodnight, play this. This is as soon as I say goodnight, play it. And it also serves as my exit song and walkout music. I think a lot of comedians should take advantage of that.
Yeah. Music is
because
so
that's
important.
an hour sometimes you're getting to entertain them, and you can choose whatever you fucking want them to hear.
Yeah. Plus it gets you in the mood. Yeah. Plus, it gets you. I feel like it gets you. I mean, I listen to music before I go on, so I can understand exactly what you're talking about. I wish that would be something that was being played over there. That's awesome. So you've done so much, Todd, with your career. I mean, you've been on TV. You've had a Netflix special. You pretty much checked every box that that any maybe up and coming comic would want to ever check. And now you are going to pitch this show that you would like to, looks like, have a residency in which you can have someone present it for you. What other things, for you to be satisfied with the career, to have a very good period at the end of your stand-up career, what other things are left undone? Because when I look at your credit list, it is vast and in depth, but I know someone like yourself always keeps trying to push yourself to do better. So with the residency aside, is there anything else that you would love to do before it all comes to an end?
Oh my God, making me nervous. No, I think about what do I want to do. If I'm lucky enough to do stand up, I'll do it obviously until I can.
Yeah.
And then pray to whoever you pray to that I quit before I'm, I might be slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to see comedians that slowed down, but were still fucking amazing. It was fun. But then you get to the point, my friend said, maybe that's when you're doing them a favor. And boy, it makes it a lot nicer. You have to pay for the ticket, but if this person you love so much is slowing down, and you should just go and go, oh my God, I was there for them at this point. And that's maybe if you look at it that way, it can be a special thing. My friend said that a long time ago when he saw Richard Pryor at the Comedy Store when he was in his later years. He goes, when he was, it was very hard for him. And he goes, I mean, it was still funny, but he had the thought of, oh, we're here for him. And that's okay. Because I started to think, well, he's not, man, it was really, and he goes, and once you look at it from that perspective, he goes, I changed my whole attitude. I was like, I could be the best audience I could be, and be glad I got the opportunity to do it. So if I would do stand-up forever. And I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I always thought for me, and I'm not there yet, I'm being very honest. What success meant to me, because it can be at every level, but I always thought it didn't mean I had to be as big as whoever, fill in the blank. It wouldn't put that priority. Nowhere near really near that. But I always thought it was being able to, and I said this when I was 30, grow old and not have to be nervous of what you're going to do. To get to that point, you go, you know what? With this lifestyle, what I lead, I have enough money in the bank. God forbid I can't do stand-up anymore. I'm good. I'm not. I'm not there. So that's why I'm putting everything. You know what I mean? I'm being.
Are you being modest? I mean, I mean, I look up to someone.
No. I'm being honest.
Okay.
Like that's.
No.
You know what?
I
could probably sell my. No, I'm being very honest. Like,
okay.
I'm not saying okay. It's not like I can't make my mortgage. But I could move. You know what? Just so you don't feel bad for me, I could probably sell my house and then go live in like, North Carolina, wherever homes are cheap. And when you're 20, you think that's what. When I bought this home, I go, oh, even no matter what happens in my career, this home, I'll sell it, and then you move to somewhere where it's absurdly cheap. And then you go, I wouldn't want that to be my life. I would miss everybody. I have all these friends. So now that plan. But anyway, the thing is that that's what I always thought it meant. So I thought, well, what are you going to do now? Like something a little different to change it up a little. And I wanted it to involve stand-up. And I thought, well, that show, it's time to just fucking bring that to another level. And I have a new manager that is time. And I go, so that show, I mean, I would love, I wouldn't even mind touring with that show, but to have residency anywhere, oh, that would be fucking great. And then do that forever, like that would be fucking great. Did I answer your question?
You did. And can't it? I mean, like, it can be a residency, right? Like you're at the infant stage of getting it out there.
Well, you have to be a big enough. You have to be a big enough draw. That's why I could go to New York and do the show for 5 months at a comedy club or wherever, even a jazz club. Go do it 5 months, pay up front. I don't care how big or small the crowd. It's the presenting. Who presents it that brings attention to it, and then also the PR, like really bring in PR is expensive. So that's sort of what it is. But my show is ready. I mean, I've been working on my stand-up harder than I've ever. I'm not a write down with paper guy.
Yes,
I write it on stage. Like a lot of comedians do.
What do you do? Well, I write it out word for word because I'm a nerd. But
no, a lot of people do that.
But maybe that's the difference between why I'm where I'm at and where you're at. But you have an iconic dining room wall with your bits on it. So there is a writing portion to it in which you rearrange your bits and you'll write a note here and there. So you would I'm gonna show note everything like your special, but I want to also include the interview you did with Pat House, which is where I got this information where you have a wall, your bits are on there, you have a friend Daniel, and you guys talk about the order it goes in. First of all, is that go ahead.
That part I've done for a while. That part, I realized once I had the binder for this special, on the music stand.
Yes.
Yeah, and for people that aren't familiar with me, I don't know who your listeners are. Like, I really mostly don't sit there and like put my finger out. I know my set.
Yeah.
So I can like flip a page and do 20 minutes. It's still like you don't have to think. And I talk, but once I put it there, because and I have a joke I say up front in my act now. I go, hey, I want to explain the binder. You do have to explain it. I go, when I was younger, and it's really just the truth. It just happens to be funny. I go, when I was younger, I always wanted to do stand-up. No bullshit. Like, and it's as much fun as I thought it would be. I do it. I fucking love it. But you know what? The part I never thought, oh, and I bet remembering my act will be fun. Remembering stuff. I love remembering. I never fucking like remembering shit. So now I get to do comedy without the bad part.
Yeah. Your binder's like your North Star.
And then I move on. And it's so helpful. And if I want to do something at a certain time, I don't have to fucking worry. I'm going to turn a page and there it is in red. And I go, oh, I love it. I'm excited to do that thing. I would have forgotten and I would have remembered, or I could have put, a little note like this on stage. But now with the joke part, like, who's been really, really helpful is Chip Chantry.
Oh my gosh. He's been on this podcast. Yeah. Chip is the best.
He will take a bit. And not just, I don't need someone to sit there and, maybe if you said that. Make little changes that make big fucking differences. And then sometimes big changes. He's very good at every level of figuring it out. And then also sometimes it's a way I'm setting it up. He goes, oh, you need to point out this. Those things can be helpful.
Yeah.
So now I'm working hard because I don't want the stand-up to be the problem. There's like all these apply to anything, and a certain amount of it's the band, certain amount of it's the PR, a small slice of it is my looks and how you feel. I lost, just to go, hey, that's a small slice of it, but I should feel good. I lost 25 pounds. I go, yeah, well, get every slice and fucking work on it. That's a small slice, your looks. But so I've been my stand-up is a big chunk. Like, don't have your stand-up be the problem with the show. Don't you be the problem with the show. So I'm working hard.
Oh yeah. No, I know you work hard. I've seen your act. It's incredible. Now, tell me, I want to know, so Chip Chantry or whoever gives you a note, and that note is emphasize maybe this part or take this word out or whatever it happens to be, but you don't write a joke out. Everything is in this binder, however it goes. So how do you remember all these notes that people give you over time?
Well, the only thing, and I didn't always do it this way. I would forget, and then eventually you remember, you go, oh, I forgot to do that. Now I put it in the binder in gray. If it's like, hey, remember what you talked to Chip about it. When I'm far away, I don't want to have to worry about all these side notes, but it helps me in the hotel. If I'm looking at the binder, oh, I want to do that there. Little teeny things. Remember to say why remember this, or, and by the way, I want to make it really clear. He doesn't just help me with technicalities of comedy, but this one area.
Yeah.
And then I'll just put it in the binder. But no, I don't write for no reason. And by the way, just so you know, and I think you probably do, like, because you were going, there's some really fucking great comedians out there now and have been that write every word out.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like, it's just whatever you do, but I just have it enough to, enough to remember, like, enough to, if I went back, I have a book. I started doing it around 20 years ago. And it's about 60% of all the jokes I have. And then there's a separate binder, just banned bits. That's it, just the banned bits. But I have the jokes. I probably started it 20 years ago. So it's every joke pretty much there's jokes that didn't get in there. I've been lazier with it lately, but they're all in there. And I've gone back to the beginning from 20 years ago, and there's almost nothing that I don't remember.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so like the binder's almost like Linus's blanket. It's like just like a nice little thing to have on stage. It makes you feel comfortable about
now remembering it in the order, that's hard for me. Or I want to remember this. That I remember the joke, but
you have so many jokes.
Order.
Yeah.
What?
You have so many jokes, I can understand why the order would be something that you just need to make sure you touch. Now, what anyone who's seen you knows that every joke is delivered with this amount of passion behind it. Every time I watch you tell a joke live or on, watching you on TV or Netflix, everything seems like, wow, I am so in the moment with Todd right now. It's almost like he's like, just, it's coming off the cuff right there as you're talking about it, but it's been done hundreds of times. Is that passion something that you manufacture, or is it authentic every time where you get all kind of manic about maybe a certain topic? Is that kind of like, I have to make sure like you said, my face is like this, my movements are like this. Are you consciously aware of that, or do you get all riled up just being in that moment on stage?
No, that's a good question, and it's I'm glad it goes the way it is. Not that I would say it, I think I'd be afraid to say, oh, it's riled up, because comedians have been accused of that. And some that I know, sometimes I agree with it. I'm like, it's just that fake anger or whatever. I can tell you genuinely, look, if someone doesn't like me, if I tell them this, even if they believe me, I don't know, maybe it would make them not be as upset. Because I could see someone saying that about me, but I swear I get, like, when I watch myself get angry, like I did a show a few weeks ago and we videoed it, and I was like, all the anger I didn't enjoy. Some of it I love. Yeah. Some of it I love. Some of it I went, wow, it doesn't matter if you are genuine or not. If it's coming off, I want to be aware of it, but it can look like out of nowhere. How can I get this angry? It's usually social issues.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I think that's what I like about you, Todd. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was rude. Go ahead.
No. But it could be hotel sheets, you know, it could be like, because it really fucking gets me. Like, even in the 2 seconds I'm talking about it right now. Yeah. So I get angry when I talk about it. And it doesn't always, it could be silly anger. If I see somebody, sometimes anything sets me off. My friend, I wore a suit last week, and my friend goes, "You're like, wearing a suit is good for you, because now you're the professional unhinged guy. Like, you're so professional. You want everything to be right. Yeah. You know, when they're coming in, and you want it to be like Disneyland, and the music and the vibe, and it's blue." And he goes, then you go out and you yell at everybody for an hour and a half. Yeah. Yeah, I do get I'll get frustrated about it, you know.
But I think that anger is what makes you a genius with comedy, is because every great comic they're doing something that the audience wishes that they could do. Either they haven't thought of it, or they feel the same way, but they can't express it. You getting angry is kind of like all of us being like, I wish I could get as angry about this as Todd does. I just don't have either the mechanics or the environment to do it in. So you're almost like we're living through you in that bit.
I hope that I also, as much as I can self-analyze myself, I also get that passionate and happy to the other end of it. It's like, it gets angry, but and I also, when I get happy, I get that happy where I'm like, I fucking love this. And I get I let myself go the other direction too. So, what did you say? What was your question?
No, I mean, I want to go back into the oh wait, crap. I had a thought there, and now it left about the anger. Oh, no. I think that's initially why I was like, so, because you're part of the reason why I got in the comedy. I watched you on Last Comic Standing. I was in high school, and I watched you on Last Comic Standing, and like I watched the first season, and I felt the very first season Last Comic Standing, which I'm not sure if you ever saw, but it was comedy, but then there was like a strategic element to it, and then the second season was like this dichotomy, and it was you and Bonnie McFarlane and Gary Goldman, and you guys were just having fun the entire time. You guys were being silly, and I was like, this didn't happen last season. Like, I really liked the comedy and the bits from the first season, but then I'm seeing the same cleverness in the comedy and bits, and then these three individuals having fun. Then you had the other part of the house, which was kind of a more manipulative game, and that's kind of what I fell in love with you, Todd, because you were silly and you were an adult and you were being silly and having the best time of your life. I was like, this is something you can get paid to do. This is a crazy this can't be a thing. So no,
I mean, the that's interesting that you even noticed that, because still some of that shit got through because they want to produce it so bad. But you know, we were all friends, and there were some people in the house that gave them what they wanted, and so at the time I just I'm like, if you weren't here, they couldn't even get a little bit of it, you know. And so we all got along, and they think they need it. It's just like, you know, I'm sure those shows that after Simon was on, every show after that, no, we need a mean guy. They don't realize, well, that might not be why the show's working. It might just be one element of that show. And that's why I love that The Voice sort of went on to have a better career, because they did it, and they're not mean to anybody, actually. Yeah. And they all thought, we need a Simon, we need a Simon, we need a Simon. And the reality shows back then, they thought they needed what I call he took my cookies moments, because it was the real world, and that lingered on, you know. They think they have to do this stuff, but they really don't. And so we just didn't give it to them. And not with some like badge of, not like we maybe even realized we were doing it, but we talked about it a little. We're like, well, but I don't have any of it. And you know what they did instead? They filmed bits with us. Like we used to have a running joke, me and Gary, that they don't let you out of here. Trust me. If you go to run, they'll so we're saying this in the living room, they'll shoot. I guarantee you, kidding around, but if we start running into those woods, I guarantee you they shoot us. And then they went, I didn't know it. They went and pulled Gary aside and shot it. And then they pulled me aside and shot something. And then you see that when you do the live shows and they roll in packages, video packages. So they just did funny things like that. I mean, they had Gary running into the woods and a big gun and they shot him and then he falls down. But I think it was a taser, not a taser, tranquilizer. That was the joke. So
do you look back on
so violent?
Do you look back on Last Comic Standing with fond memories, or were you like, this was a means to an end? What kind of was?
Well, I asked a friend going into it. I actually asked Scott Ackerman and BJ Porter. They worked together at the time, and I asked them both. And I thought they were going to say no. And I hate auditions, so I was looking for a reason not to go. It made me nervous. And they go, "You go do it." The first year it already happened. But they said, "You'll be you." They go, "You just be you, and you don't have to do it." So they sort of. I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't have to like do these things they try to get you to do." One night. You know what? I don't mind telling stories about Last Comic Standing. Number one, they're positive. We did have a lot of fun. Yeah. And I also talk about other stuff too. But my paranoia is that someone will go, "Oh, Todd's still talking about Last Comic Standing."
No, I want to talk about because that's how I found you. Yeah.
So what were we talking about the show about the
you said like a positive story that came out, or you're going to give me a story about I was going to say was it a positive experience for you, or was it a means to an end? Okay, positive experience.
Oh no, so and they said do it, you'll be yourself, and then I went and that's what I did. But even when like I snore, so I brought a box fan because it really helps, and I knew we'd be more than a few people sleeping in a room.
Never forget the yoga when you start snoring. Yes.
Oh yeah. So and I would fall asleep. I was a little more overweight then, so I was snoring. Now I'm not snoring. And I was like, I don't know what I would have done, but I would have probably done it because either way it makes good television, but it does make mechanics have to come up and remount stuff. So I knew they're listening. I forget. I go, "Hey," I want my fan. I'm not a lunatic. I'll give you 5 minutes. That's not a minute. It might be across. I don't know where it is. 5 minutes. Either someone comes up here and tells me it's not on, or we get it back, or I'm going to literally start ripping cameras off the wall. And believe me, I'm going to do it. That's why I gave you 5 minutes and didn't say 30 seconds. And then guess what? I swear to fucking God, about a minute later, my fan came up. I was like, this show doesn't need me keeping Alonzo Bowden and Gary Goldman up for a whole night, because that's who I was sharing a room with.
Now, how'd you get on the show? Because I'm not saying this because of talent. I'm saying this because I was like, I saw you in the auditions and I saw you doing and I was like, this guy's great and he deserves to get on. And then I read your book and then I find out you're neighbors with Jay Moore. So I'm like, did this dude have what's this guy doing? Is he did he get a fast pass, or did you really go through the actual auditions where you're on the streets for like 3 hours or whatever? How'd you get on that show?
No, they let you, if you were a seasoned comic, they did let you, because the next year they realized that there were some of those comedians that had an act to go tour with, but really getting that sort of attention. And then if you have an act to go out and then, tour with it. Like some people weren't ready. Others were, but definitely some weren't on that show. Some were definitely ready. So others. Yeah. So I think they tried to go, well, we're going to try to get, because look what it did for them. But they probably realized to do that, no, I wouldn't go wait in line for 3 hours. And believe me, I should. I'm not that. I needed the event. I needed I needed it. Yeah. But so you just went in. But you know what I did for the reverse? I think also they decide they'd like you there. Maybe it's somebody like, I don't know, that goes, you know what, people should know who Todd Glass is. And that maybe that happened a little, I don't know, and that would melt my heart. I think a little bit of that might have happened. But I mean, you still had to do well with the audiences. But on the audition at the Melrose Improv, there was a comedian before me. He has since passed, but he told this story all the time. And he has a joke about, it was after a show early in his career. His name's Mike Reynolds. And he was out on the boardwalk. Someone's yelling out, "Mike Reynolds." And he's like, "Oh my God, they saw the show." And then, so, he and then he hears Bike Reynolds, Bike Reynolds, Bike Reynolds. It was Bike Reynolds. So he went up, he had okay. I went up and did the same joke. I go, one night after a show, and I used his name. And he always goes, "You did my joke and got in. I did my joke and I didn't."
I like that you were fucking with them, dude. I so like that. So wait, did you know that you were like automatically going to go to like the semifinals, or did you not know that you were going to get any further
Oh
than like
no,
the callback?
no,
Okay,
and you no, and you know what?
yeah,
I cared. I don't really. There's not that many things that I go. Oh, I want that. I'm like
yeah,
a stand up. But
hmm
other than that, probably because I get to do that, and that
hmm
feeds what I really need to be
hmm
fed. So the stand up. So that's probably why. So I never really felt like I want this,
yeah,
and I did. I
yeah,
really wanted it, And so as I kept getting advanced, and I was like the eighth one to get called for the 10, and I was like,
hmm
yes, I was like, I
yeah,
I really wanted to, and it was very, very good for
hmm
me, and it was really a lot of fun.
yeah. Now
A lot.
it was obvious to me that you knew Gary. I mean, just the chemistry you guys had prior to getting onto the show, like when you guys were in the house. Who did you know very well getting it before you went into the house? Who were people that you like either
Well, I
opened
knew
for? Or, go ahead.
Tammy Piscatelli
Okay.
very well. I knew Kathleen Madigan,
Okay.
very well. I knew Gary very
Mhm.
well. Alonzo,
So,
both, well, not Alonzo. Alonzo, yeah, I knew Alonzo and
mhm.
Corey Holcomb and
Okay.
Bonnie McFarlane. I mean,
So
I knew a lot of them
was it
very well.
was it weird like that? Because like unlike an actual reality show where people come in as strangers, you guys all work together in some capacity. Where people like Tammy or like even like Ant who played the game very hard, kind of like Todd, I gotta do this. Like I gotta get screen time. Like was there a canned conversation off camera for when these moments were happening on camera with these people that were your friends or anything? Because when I think of the shrewd players that season, I think of Ant, Alonso, and Tammy were the real shrewd players as far as getting you out early and those kind of things. Did you guys have conversations?
So funny. That's so funny because like that you're that's I don't even know like I'm gonna go. That's very intuitive. You notice that,
Mhm.
but like I haven't seen every show. I've seen when it's been a while. I forget what I've seen, but I haven't seen every show, so I don't
Yeah.
know every. But like that's why almost everything that part of the show wasn't my favorite part. That they
Yeah.
decided because they could have done what we did, and who knows?
Mhm.
Some people are going to go, well, some of you didn't, some of you had to do it.
Mhm.
Maybe not,
Mhm.
maybe not, but they gave them that. They decided they were going to give them that the show.
Mhm.
Like why is Todd upstairs singing "I Need Attention"?
Yeah.
And if you were funny, like that's the
Yeah.
but he probably didn't even believe it, But
Mhm.
they gave them what they wanted, and that wasn't the best part of it. But there
Yeah.
was a lot of fun, even with them when
Yeah.
they weren't participating in that element of it. Even with them, a lot of great conversations around the fire pit at night, just talking
Yeah.
about comedy. And you're on a show, like you could just ask for a drink, like
Yeah.
you just go, "Can I get a Jack and Coke?" And they would bring you out a Jack and Coke.
Yeah.
And I was in the kitchen once, and I dropped a jar of mayonnaise,
Mhm.
and you really do forget. They at night, all the moving cameras, there's only
Mhm.
one, and you you
Mhm.
you you forget that they're watching you all the time.
Mhm.
And I went to clean it up, and then somebody came in like a person to clean it. I'm like, this is pretty. Is this what the elite? Is this how they live?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so.
So
I
then
mean,
I just started taking
yeah.
out jars and dumping them over. No.
I love it. I love that you're doing this, dude. I mean, I'm glad because you all, I mean, I don't know. Did you get a lot of after the show was like, hey, were you playing a character? Because I initially thought that as well until I got your album Thin Pig. And so I was like, is this him getting screen time or is this actually who Todd Glass is? Because I was in high school. My dad wasn't taking me out to comedy clubs to see, people. So like, I'm glad but did you get a lot of that when you were out on the road? Like, hey, are you a character on TV kind of thing? Cause you were so present in front of the camera versus like someone like Kathleen Madigan, who no offense to Kathleen was barely visible on camera.
You know, um, this answers the question. When I was
Mhm,
12, and I would imagine it the same, and it's changing. Maybe a lot of times it was more boys that like comedy, but that's
mhm,
changing big time now that there's a lot of funny women comedians. But
mhm,
but for a while, more young boys. And you know what? I had good taste
mhm,
in comedy when I was 11 and 12.
mhm,
I think I did. Looking back, young kids have a very, they so after the show, like mostly what I liked was I would get parents coming up to me after the show going, "Oh, our son, he's too young to get in." And I love that because that was me at that age. And they're watching me going, oh, this adult has the sensibility that more like I have. And I only have it because, look, things, everybody has it when they're young. Everybody's silly. Everybody does bits. That's all kids do are bits.
Yeah.
But life can knock the shit out of you. And then you have responsibilities. And the truth is, and only because I live a very, I don't waste money. I'm very good. So I don't have debt. I don't have kids, so I don't have a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So I can still hang out like that. I always have to tell my friends, I got to make newer, younger friends every 10 years because your other friends, they have responsibilities. I can still. So that sort of is me. And I think they got it. Like when I was begging them to get me off the show, instead of doing stand-up, I went out. I'm like, please, I don't want to be here. I don't know what I can do. Please, if you help me out. And then, I would get letters from.
You asked to get off the show?
Hanging up. What?
Wait, you asked to get kicked off the Last Comic Standing? Like, have them vote for you?
As a joke on air.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry.
Joke. And I would say, like, if you do this, I'll send you $1. And I would get letters, hey, or do you want to, will you really give me $1 if I, whatever, But, your question was, but no, I never had the clubs. I never was met with anything like, they accepted who I came off on the show is. Okay. It's probably somewhat the same.
Yeah. I always wanted to ask you this.
Maybe there's a genuine side you don't really get on the show. I also like talking about, I also like atmosphere and I like talking about lighting and how to present. So, I like talking about Mr. Rogers and so maybe if they see that other side, maybe, if they come see me live, I would hope they just go, oh, okay, well, he is that, but plus this.
I think it was kind of cool. There's something I wanted to bring about Lost Comic Standing and then I promised to move on, but I think that's kind of like, what is Todd Glass's brand or what's his competitive advantage? How did Todd Glass find success? And I think your brand of comedy is your bits come from that viewpoint of not a child, but like a teenager, something like that. Like you see these things with eyes that adults who are your age to comedy clubs don't see. I think I relate to that so much when you have these kind of rants or jokes. It's not, I wouldn't say it's childlike in an insulting way, but it's very candid and raw, and it really strips down something to its essence. It's not the bullshit. There's always that thing, and adults will put that bullshit coating, like that sugar coating on a pill over it. And I think what you are doing is you take that child's lens and you scrape off that coating and now here it is right here in front of you, you idiots. Here it's right here, kind of thing. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure, but it sounded nice.
All right.
But I don't know. I guess maybe I can answer that question by just saying, or it's not that it was a question, but I notice as every time I look back on old comedy, what bothers me the more is when it doesn't come off authentic.
Yes.
And sometimes it was because I was doing something really important, and then you're tightening it up a little, and you weren't that, polished when you were tour. But nevertheless, any level of not being genuine, being phony in my voice, my last. On my next special, I have in my binder, literally the first page says, talk like you fucking talk. And that reminds me, don't do this thing where you, so I think that, that's all, that's maybe the guiding sort of maybe.
When you get a nugget of an idea that you do into your phone's apps, is the initial idea most times a point you want to make or something that you find funny? Like I don't, and let me know if I'm not.
Oh, it'll be both. Okay. The joke now is every time I have an idea, and my friends around me, I'll get into the part of the joke, the technical part of it that I don't want to figure out right there. But I know if someone does so I go, blah, 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 blah. My friends will hear me go, you'll give it to Chip Chantry. He'll fucking polish it up for you. and so that's usually into my phone. It is, if it's a social point of view, I'm not trying. I will make my next special or even my comedy live. I had some stuff that was preachier than funny. Preachier than funny. And some of it I don't mind. I could go, well, I have trumpets blaring behind me. Obviously, I don't take myself too seriously. But still, I want this one. I don't mind if I have something to say, but I want it to be funnier than preachy. And relatively, besides defending youth, like that chunk of my act, defending youth, I don't really, I'm not really going to do any talk about that. But I forget. What did you say?
I was just gonna say, like,
my memo? So if it's a social situation, I go, and then if it's a joke, like, hey, let me tell you something. For the phone, so many nights still, especially if I'm high, it's oh my god. For so many comedians, I bet it's such a good tool. Don't ever, if you're a stand-up comic and you complain about the phone, before you shut the fuck up,
phone's the best thing.
How I'm sure for tons of people, but creative people with dyslexia sometimes, and that phone and getting you to these weird gigs and then not and then being able to say things into a phone the way you want to say them instead of writing them down sloppily and maybe forgetting for some few key points. My God, fucking not God, but whatever I believe. Thank the universe. For my phone.
I'm gonna go back to the thing I want to talk about from last comic standing, but it is going to parlay this thing about how you want to protect the youth, and I think that's where that was the genesis of the Marc Maron episode. That was just an iconic episode that really did a lot of good and a lot of change. Going back, kind of pre that on last comic standing, I'm not sure if you recall this. There was a very real moment that happened between Ant and Corey Holcomb about. I guess there was a gay slur, and I believe that Ant or somebody blamed maybe you for saying something initially, and then Corey really jumped on it or something like that. Can you kind of walk us? I mean, for those who have not seen Last Comic Standing, because for some reason all that stuff stays up here for the rest of my life. Can you talk, if you remember that happened? Can you talk about what exactly happened and what kind of how you felt in the moment? Because this was all before you came out, and it all happened on live TV for millions of people to see.
Yeah, god damn it. Isn't that funny? Like, I don't even really think about that part of the show, but of course I remember it. And also, as you're telling it to me, and by the way, I'm happy to discuss it, but I guess maybe I forget about it because it's something that I want to forget about. And to be really clear, I wouldn't use a slur like that anymore, even jokingly. I know that I want to go out of my way to say this. I did it jokingly, and I still don't want to do it anymore. But everybody's going to say they were joking, but you have to have a juxtaposition laid down somewhere. If I ever did it, which I wouldn't, but if somebody found, let's say, that old piece of work and they asked me to answer for it, I wouldn't mind. I think if you go listen to my podcast, and I'd even tell them which 3 episodes, you'll go, oh, this guy's a different person now. A lot of times when people get in trouble for that stuff, they're not a different person. They're just apologizing. They're better off not apologizing, but they're not a different person. They get very angry. I would, but then, and I was not in the closet, but said bad things about gay people to hide. That's not what I was doing. I was saying it sometimes to me to use vile words back then, and they are vile words. And they pack a lot of hate, and it's just a lot of negativity. They're very vile, but the comedian in me saw humor in that sometimes to use them sloppily. I can get off in other ways now. I get it. I could defend it. It could look like I'm going down the path to defend it, but I'm going down that path to say, I get it usually. And back then there was somebody taking a picture of the bus, and I said, oh, what's the matter? You never saw a bus before you? And I used the F slur. Should I say the word just so people are really clear?
I mean, I think we know what the word is. I don't think you. It's not giving any more merit. It's not giving any more merit.
The elongated F word. And then and I was saying it, after I used that word, there became somebody else in the house said, what if we used the N word, and then it became. That was it. That's got Corey started. I was sort of not. That sort of became the bigger thing. No one said, but you started it with what you said. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. That wasn't a pivotal thing. So then it just. But it was very funny because then you're like, Yeah, really, and then there were lawyers that were coming onto the,
Oh my gosh. Well,
onto the set, and
they had to physically
one at a
separate.
time interview us.
Yeah, they had to
What?
physically separate Ant and Corey, I remember, because it was almost to get physical at one point. You said not to, I'm not going to mention his name, but the individual that got upset about the whole situation, and he said that was name. Was there, after you came out on Marc Maron, was there ever a conversation with this gentleman at all?
No,
Or okay, no, okay, I didn't know
no,
if like he would have called you back. I was like, hey, what about 2005, man? I didn't know what the
no.
relationship. Okay, all right, cool. Moving on. Um, um, I wanted to ask you. I know I told you it was an hour. How much time do you have?
We're
I want to
fine.
be okay. I want to
We're
ask.
fine. We can talk till my friend gets here.
Okay. Let's talk about Marc Maron. The Marc Maron episode, very iconic episode. I think it was just. I mean, if anything, just in the world of comedy, definitely a move forward in social progress, and came out with a great book out of it. I love that book. You had mentioned, and I'm going to follow up to where is he now? That the interview is over 10 years old now. You mentioned on that episode very clearly, you saying that I will never be able to hold someone's hand in public. Let me ask you right now, Todd, since that interview, have you held someone's hand in public?
Wow. What a good clean question. No.
No.
But like that, hey, there's by the way, there are plenty of people that can, but
yeah.
I think that's why I think that's important, and I'm glad you asked me that, because even me with other issues, I'm not saying everybody could learn more. When you think, oh no, I know about that plate, I got those people, I got them, I have it, I don't need to learn anything else. And you vote, you love your kids, your whatever, you've got it. I don't need, not that you wouldn't mind hearing it, but you don't think, there's nothing. That is important because it says, wow. And I'm not, oh, woe is me, like I'm fine. But maybe the fact that I am fine with it says more than, I'm like, I'm not saying I would never do it, but that's how that shit impacts you. At such a, it's like, like that's just, that stays with you a long time. So think about, now it's not over. I'm not saying that to anybody out there. I'm saying it to myself because there's another group of people that are asking, that are going to be made to feel less than until we finally give them their rights. But in the meantime, we fucking beat the shit out of them. We have friends amongst us, and no, you can't have everybody out of your life that doesn't agree with your opinion. You can't, but you could raise the bar a little higher.
Yeah.
I think everybody says, well, out of laziness, we all say, well, we have to have people in our lives. Yeah, we have family. But after that, you don't have to just excommunicate them from your life, but you can start being vocal with it. And when you hear a story like that, maybe, and it's like, wow, think about the people and the things you're saying and how it affects them. Not just, we start thinking them as a cause and they think they're this, but the things you say, the little things you say, will affect these people. And make them go through bullshit that they don't have to go through. And ultimately, so many comedians, like everything else, are going to learn about these groups of people right now that are basically asking for what every group always asks for, to be treated like, just with respect and dignity and know our story. Eventually, it's not that everyone just changes their opinion. I mean, this is a positive thing in a way. It's not like we go through life and we go, oh, it's been 15 years, I've had that view. No, usually we end up learning about them, and we watch a documentary or your own grandchild. Unfortunately, it has to come that close sometimes to your own child, and we learn, and then you go, oh, and then you really understand.
Yeah.
But you didn't. So of course that's what's going to happen. So especially as comedians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, and I am going off on a tangent, but it's like no one's I would never tell a comedian what to say, ever. And that might seem like I'm contradicting that right now. No, I'm not. I'm saying every fucking comedian should do whatever they want. That's what's great about it. But you can make your own conscious choices to drop shit out of your act and evolve. It doesn't have to be a court order. It's okay if you go, oh, I wouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
If there's nothing in your act that you wouldn't do anymore, if you ever want to give a self-litmus test on yourself, the evolution as a person and a comic, if there's nothing in your act that you wouldn't do anymore, probably not 100%, but if there's nothing in your act that you wouldn't do anymore, probably the odds of you growing are it's just as a person are very low.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Very low.
You said I'm never gonna have a comic sense themselves, but if you don't mind commenting on what you perceive the state of comedy to be today and where it's going, where there's a very popular niche of comics, anti-woke comic, who doesn't mind kind of pushing the decency norms by saying things that are, off, kind of going back to the 1990s with what you could say honestly. So what do you see do you feel that comedy is maybe moving forward, idling out, or do you think it's kind of going back right now with like kind of this popularity of comics, like unwoke comedy, anti-woke comedy? I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, anti-woke. There's definitely a breed of people that are branding themselves that you can't say anything anymore. If we discuss right now the way most people discuss it, on a good day you could win. You don't win, but like make your point. Not you, but you, the people that disagree with me. And on a better day, maybe I could. But if you look at it from afar and just look at the trajectory of that type of behavior, and whether all these comedians have gone in to protect their own ego or protect comedy, you have to know one running pattern. This is just a running pattern that when you ask them what year they want to go back to when comedy was great, overwhelmingly it's when the same time, coincidentally, that they were young.
Yeah.
Now, if someone hears that disagrees with me and doesn't at least grab their ear and go, all right, there is truth to that. Nobody goes, the 40s, when you were young with all the promise and all the hope and you finally got good at this thing and that nobody said. So that makes me think that they didn't go into it really giving an objective view because if once in a while somebody said the 40s or the 60s, I'd have to go, okay, now I got some more research to do here. So, but the fact that boom, it goes right to when they were young probably says, so comedy gets better and better. I get why in the moment, it's probably because you don't go out to see it as much and you think, yeah, but comedy used to be great. Yeah, you were younger and maybe what made you laugh and you were excited over it, just a little growth. And now you're a little maybe jaded. You don't want to think yourself as jaded. But and on a good day, maybe if we took this argument this way, like I said, the other opposing view, I think could make their point and win. But as far as starting to name comedians, I've gone down that path where you go, what about blah, blah, blah? What about blah, blah, blah? Well, the thing is, the comedians you name that are great, or they're maybe 12-year comedians that are great, but they're still going to grow. They forget what they loved when they were 12 years in. So you lose. But if you go, pull back a little bit, I won't engage with this conversation, but I will tell you that it's been going on forever, that comedy does not get worse and worse. Acting gets better, music gets better, and comedy gets better. There's just a trajectory of it happening over the years. That's not a bad thing. It's usually because it becomes more real. It's the artist doesn't have the business in the way of it, so what they can bring to the people can be more pure. It's one slice of it they're having a problem with, but overwhelmingly, there's just some facts, and it wouldn't be the first generation to say that the new comedy's better. Usually when you're going after somebody for being wrong on their social view, trailing right behind it is just that it's hacked. At this point, it's like making airplane peanuts are small, and you tell someone to drop that joke out of their act, and they go, "No, it's true." I go, "You know what? I'm not even arguing with it. It is true. They're small. Still take it out of the act." Most of this just complaining about this. You can't say anything anymore. It's just like hack. If you won't stop it because it's not true, you should be embarrassed to mention it because it's hack. On stage, it's such a fake rebel. That they don't realize they go, oh, what happened to the people that used to be comedy? But tough. Yeah, they're the ones you hate now. You don't want to think about it that way. You're angry at the ones that are saying something. And by the way, if I had to go wider with my scope, like, you can't say anything anymore. If I wanted to really make that like a detective would try to clean something up, what I would notice a running core with that is you can't say anything anymore not you can't say anything anymore. That the majority of the people, that seems like I'm going a certain way with this, but I'm going another way. I feel, I could be wrong, but I'll start with what I feel. The majority of the world thinks you can't say anything anymore. Majority of the world feels like you can't do this, you can't do that. It's overwhelmingly people feel that way. As a comedian, they come up to me all the time. How is it out there doing comedy? You can't say anything anymore. You're at someone's house and they go, oh, it worked. You can't say anything anymore. The majority of the people feel that. here's where it all takes a big flip on whether it's probably means that's true or false. The majority of the people in the beginning are overwhelmingly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that stat gets in the way of your opinion, and you at least go back to look at my social math, then you're in your own way. You got to prove right now that what Todd, if you disagree with me, you have to go, is what Todd just said true? Not even social, political. The majority of the people don't want to pick up their own dog shit. The majority of people didn't want women to vote or be in the police force. They didn't want to. The majority of the people didn't want non-smoking restaurants. They were angry. They were angry when it turned into the stadium. They were angry when it got to the stadium. They went, now it's gone too fucking far. And a lot of people, they go, I know. Now, go ahead, light up this light, have 5 people smoking around. So the majority of the people don't like change, and they don't end up looking right. So just on that alone, if you are a comedian that's supposed to put a litmus test on absurdity, you should go, what the fuck? Could what Todd just said true? It is true. The majority of the people are wrong, usually in the beginning, and then the smaller dose gets them to come their way. But the fact that most people think it is almost, to me, unequivocally that it's got to be fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Not true.
Yeah. I mean,
most people think.
No, you're absolutely right. But you do have half the country that, I mean, conservatives are like conserving the traditional value, which, yeah, there's plenty of holes that you can poke into that. What would, can you kind of emphasize people who maybe have those ideals and beliefs, but do jokes well that way? So when you're thinking of what I think we just had a kind of like a conversation around people who kind of find the lowest common denominator in that group about not changing. Can you kind of say what you appreciate from comics that may have those beliefs, but do it well?
Well, by the way, that's most of them are not saying you can't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
They might be met with a little more resistance than they were years ago. All right, good. I don't think it makes your comedy. So that's why it's so important. I'm glad you asked me that follow-up question, because it could make it look like I always feel like I have to have this preface this, and my hit and who I had on my podcast shows it. It's not just me saying it so then I can go, believe me, I love vulgar comedy. I love crass. I love using poetic vulgarness to make a point. So you think, well, how can I feel that way? That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. Of course, that is a slice of comedy that if I thought was in trouble, it's not. It's not. As a matter of fact, a lot of those guys, like look at Eddie Pepitone, and he's a guy that's not a young comic, but he's very vulgar, angry and that, but he's never punching down.
Yeah.
So you can do all that stuff, and you can be twisted and demented, and saying it's you can't say anything anymore. It's also it can be a lazy thing to crutch as a comic. It's my brilliant joke. Is there any chance they just don't like it because it sucks? A lot of times you wouldn't keep a joke in your act about a dog that long. But anyway, I digress. But the point is, look, I thought I made a good point that
you did.
If the majority of the world thinks it now, and I fantasize someone hearing this that doesn't like me and hears that. Look, complacency might be the biggest drug we have, because that made don't tell me that didn't make any sense for at least someone that disagrees with me to go, no, comedy is in trouble. There's the police now. You can't do this. If they're not able to stop and go, I don't have to fall to my knees and admit Todd's right. But if it doesn't give them pause to go, I'll give Todd this. That should at least stop me and go, is that true?
Yeah.
And then maybe re-look at the situation and go, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you mind being completely wrong? For any of the comedians that feel, or people, you're not coming to the honest conclusion unless you said to yourself, I've seen in life, through history and books and documentaries, people being dead wrong. I mean, not a little wrong. I mean, dead fucking wrong. Some that live and change and help. But you have to say to yourself, could that be me? And if you don't go, oh my God, of course it could fucking be me. The odds of you doing it are very high. And most of those people haven't gone, could I be? I've spent a lot of time defending it, but could I be way off? And if they said to me, well, Todd, have you thought it? Yes, that's why I come at it with more than just the topical information, but the overview of all of these things. It's like, it's the same thing if they go, it's going to hurt the kids. You could have an argument over that. You could go, what is it they want to do? Well, I don't think that's good for kids. You could go, if you're in a hurry and you want to make a good fucking clean decision, go, I have this up. I just looked it up. Most things that I can remember since the 50s, and name 20 of them that they used as it's going to hurt the kids, it didn't end up hurting the kids. So the odds of this one, very, very, very low. And it's the same thing.
Exactly.
With you can clean these things up if you're willing to pull back and look at some of the running threads.
Well said, Todd. I want to ask, like, when you take on jokes that are social issues, what be it guns, religion, whatever it happens to be, do you take a look at that joke from every angle, or do you just look at from one perspective, or do you consider a perspective that would be unlike how you feel in order to mind that joke a little more?
I guess I would just hear somebody say something if it was a social joke.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to think what they think to have the counter argument with it.
Okay.
Lately, though, I'll tell you what I've appreciated some comedian friends doing. They'll do it if you ask. I go, by the way, if I have an analogy in my joke or comparison that you see a hole in, tell me.
Yeah.
Because lately, I had a few of my friends, and I'm glad. I go, no, thank you. You can that can help me. I want to see. So if that answers your
question. No. I appreciate it. I just have a few notes here I wanted to ask you about. So the Marc Maron podcast, it came from this just having enough with the amount of youth that were killing themselves around being gay. But I think a factor that I read in your book that I want to see if you would comment on would be you almost died, like that you almost died on stage at one point. How much of a factor was it to having that moment, or not the moment, like that hour and change with Marc Maron? If you had not died, would that moment still have happened? Or I mean, not died. Have you almost not had died?
No, I almost want to say it had to. And it had to. That your mortality and that, and I didn't want to, and also made me think I didn't want to die. This might seem a little presumptuous, but I remember thinking if I died right after I had my heart attack, I go, if I died, I know that people would say I was a good comedian, but the people I wanted to, people that I admire, the people that I admire. I know that, putting modesty aside, I think that, but I think they all would have felt it's a shame he didn't ever feel comfortable to talk about it on stage. All my close comedian friends, none of them could give a shit, and I think they would have just felt, and I didn't want that. So so that maybe pushed me a little bit to do it. And then the kids that were, hey, look, it hasn't stopped. We're just not seeing it as much. The kids that were committing suicide was just crushing me, and I thought that it gave validity to that's something to hide if I hit it. And I thought, when I was younger, my mom had a friend, and his name was Jim Conant, and I thought he was really cool. And I found out that he was gay when I was like 16, and I fucking loved it. I'm like, Jim's cool, and he's gay, there was a baseball player once, the same thing, and I thought, you do comedy, it's sort of a cool job, and maybe it should be for yourself mainly, to be just be authentic. But if that's the bonus of it, maybe that's the part that pushes you to fucking do it, But it made me, I'm so happy that I did it, I really
I think a lot of people are. And
it's so different now. It's like so different now. I'm sure there's still the troubles, and I'm not, but like even from 10 years ago, when you go look at a show at a comedy, at even a mainstream comedy club, the diversity on the all that diversity that everyone hates so much. I always say diversity isn't a mercy mission for the diversity. It's makes better crowds. Because it represents the world.
Exactly.
Makes better crowds.
Who wants a show with three similar viewpoints? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No. Just whenever you see good clubs with good crowds, well, at least crowds that I think are good, usually means they pay attention, and they're there for the show. Go look at the wall, and you go, oh yeah, look at, and you see the more diverse wall you see, usually they better crowds they are most of the time.
Did you see what was the response to that episode? I don't think you've really ever mentioned the response to it. I think I tried to do a little bit of research around about what a couple of the interviews you did right after that. What was the response from the Marc Maron episode? Was it overwhelmingly positive?
Twitter was really popular then, and just a lot of support, a lot of people. There's always a few people that say, "All right, I don't care, but what do you have to announce it for?" And they're the ones they do care. My friend pointed that out. That group that says, "I really don't fucking care, but why do they have to?" You don't. you decided to stop complaining about it. That's what you mean when you don't care. Because if you really understood it, you go, because we hope it's the process. You kept something bottled up, even if it was in your own head, or maybe your family didn't care, whatever it is. So we know you knew, but that's why. So most of the time when people say, oh, I don't care that someone's gay, but why do they have to celebrate it? There was a teeny bit of that, but overwhelmingly. So, I mean, the amount of love that, they say when you met Mr. Rogers, he reminded you of how decent we could be as a species, and that type of love, which, I would just fucking cry, like read some of the emails. And, that's why I answer every email, even if it's, I think you're funny and you made me almost shit in my pants. I want to answer those emails, and the amount I get, I can reply. But when I read some of the emails from, a lot of times it's younger people, sometimes it's older people, but a lot of times it's younger people. And I thought, God, if they would have just fell on deaf ears, those emails. So I answer them I really answer those. And when I feel I can't say it in the word, I make a voice memo and I send it to them.
Nice.
Especially when it involves that topic of, I'm young, I'm in the closet, and, nice. That type of email.
So Todd, how would you like to be remembered? Because
big cigar sitting on a wine.
I mean, would it be okay if you were remembered as not just a comic, but also kind of like a social engineer in some sense? Or do you want to be like, no, just remember me as a comic? I mean, it's hard to kind of, I know you're not someone who wants to be put into a bucket, or I'm messing on.
Well, I know how I like to be, so I probably that's neck and neck with how I would want to be remembered. I try to, just be fun and silly, and also be look, people can fall off the wagon. That's why a lot of people that want to give their social resume, they're like, a lot of writing staffs do that when they're called on something. They go, no, we're progressive. And they use it. I'm saying that doesn't mean, that's like someone going, hey, if they're an alcoholic and they go, you had a drink, no. I didn't drink for 3 years. That's not going to be your selling point to make me think you didn't have a drink the other night. You have to prove you didn't have a drink. Because you can fall off the wagon. And so just going, I didn't have a drink for 3 years. Even so, when you say I used to be I'm progressive, and I'm the progressive one. Yeah, people like you, good, nice people were. And then as things get harder and you get busier and you get older, another thing gets slid in front of you, and you don't go with it. And most of the time you're wrong. And because the other things were happening while you were younger. The older you get, the harder it is to. So as that happens to me, since I've been a victim of some of the other things, being Jewish and also having dyslexia and being in special schools, and also being, gay, I just go, whatever the new thing is. I have an expression. I say, I give whatever group it is. It's usually a group asking for really fair things. And I just give them right away. My brother said I operate like an emergency room nurse. Just fucking give them what they want. And even if I'm confused still, I'm confused. It took me a while with the pronouns. But right from the bat, what do they want? Give it to them. And then ask questions later. Because most of the time, whatever they're asking for is just fucking the deserving.
Yeah.
Deserving. So that's how I go through life. I hope, that I give that for my show. It's a safe haven for, obviously, first, most importantly, to just go fucking laugh. But that people see the audience, they go, I'd feel safe at his show. Yeah. Especially if you don't identify as maybe some of the more norms, that I would go to his show and that I would feel comfortable. If there's a slew of people that said that, I went to a show, boy, did I felt good. And then just obviously, fun to be around. Yeah. What else? There's not that more.
I think that was part of the interview that really spoke to me a lot. That really I guess there's an impact from that interview. It was talking about that you did not have an easy childhood, but at least you had parents who were supportive and loved you and bought into everything Todd Glass was about and who Todd Glass was. Yeah. But there are people.
No, I had an easy childhood.
Yeah, but okay, compared to, you just mentioned you had dyslexia, you had to go, your book, read the book, because the first few chapters are just based on pretty much all the obstacles you had to overcome just to get to where I get to talk to you now and be a fan. But I'm saying there are, I think people, I think the part of the interview which was hey, there are other like socioeconomic classes or racial classes that, you know, have a hard time, but it's the gay youth that see them most often where their parents abandon them, and that I think spoke to me. I think that was really what of the whole interview. I think that sold everything. There was that they don't have the you were appreciative, and now you're paying it forward for having that support system, and now and hopefully now let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Real, and then I'll let you ask the last question only because I think and I do have to run, and I'm the one keeping you at this point.
No, I love you. I love this.
You're talking about most. Look, anytime I'm preaching or whatever you want to call it, I also am retelling myself because I'm aware that my story could be. Todd was amazing when he was, you know, he seemed like he was going to die, but then with this thing, man, I heard him the other day. He's giving it resistance, and I'm like, that could be me if I don't think it could be, but you know, we really could. All the marginalized groups. Now, I'm not saying they caused their problems. I have to be really clear with this. And my theory could be wrong. If it is, someone needs to tell me, because if I'm right, someone needs to scream at all these marginalized groups, a portion of the marginalized groups. Again, I'm saying bring their problems on, including gay people, you know, whatever your plight is. If you're, you know, been a victim of being judged outside the content of your character in a big mammoth way. So, you know, it'll be women, black people, gay people, and the list goes on and on. And you perpetuate that to the next group, then how do we expect white straight guys to understand it when you have, and they don't think they're doing it. Yes, I get it. They don't think they're doing it. But if every marginalized group would take the hand of their fellow marginalized group and not mind taking it, not going, whoa, why do you identify with us? Our plight is completely different than yours. If every one of them, they could move like a freight train. And I almost sarcastically want to go to whatever group's complaining, almost in a joking way, go, oh, you're fine, or you wouldn't be turning off that other group that wants to identify with you and says, come aboard, we need all the soldiers we can get.
Yeah.
So there are a ton of marginalized groups, and within those groups, the ones that aren't doing that are me and being angry about when you see it. It's like, if every marginalized group would just go, yeah, let's band together. I think they could move forward and get out of the rut that they didn't put themselves in. But so that's always it, and that's what is a big thing with me. To just almost, it makes me almost my head want to pop to go. How do they not see the absurdity? You're turning around and doing what was done to you.
Exactly.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
It's really.
So let me ask you this, Todd. Yeah. You are so much yes, I'll end on this. I got a silly question for you, but I'm going to answer this. You're so much like that. You speak up on behalf. You're like the Lorax for the youth. Have you ever talked about? Have you ever thought of having kids? I think you'd be a great dad, dude. Or was it always career first, and just the family wasn't going to be possible with the career?
No, it didn't really have anything to do with my career. You know, I always thought the way I answered that is people go, would you know. What if you had kids and it was the best thing you ever did? And coming up with this answer to why I'm not having kids really then solidified it for me. Because I'm not 100% positive that I still wouldn't want to have kids. I'm not 100%. There is a slice of it that goes, what if I am? But I don't think you bring kids into the world because there's a slice that you might, you know, I do love kids. And when people, and it lets me be a good friend's uncle, you know, to their kids and my nieces and nephews. But for my own, it's too much. I have a very chaotic head the way it is. And that would be a responsibility. I'm overwhelmingly positive that would not make me have the quality of life. I think I would be just a different, stressed out fucking person.
All right, fair enough. And I'll give you my silly thing to think about. I don't know if it's something. So I don't know if this could happen. Did you ever see Tig Notaro's Knock Knock as Tig Notaro on HBO? Where she went around.
All you have to do is tell me that, and I can imagine the commitment.
So she put a thing out.
Yes, I did see that. She goes, yes. What did I just say?
Yeah, she would go out to people's
commitment.
Did you? I feel like this would. I mean, I think you would hate this because you couldn't control the environment because you'd be in people's like greenhouses and churches and all this other thing. Would you ever consider it? I so much would love to see Todd Glass and the Todd Glass Band going around the country playing at fans, whatever weird environment they would put you in. Although I can see it killing your soul of not being able to control the environment in which you were in.
Oh no, Well, if somebody did that and was shooting it, so there's a budget and you're not killing yourself.
Yeah.
You're just going to immerse it. Oh, I would do that in a heartbeat.
I think
I'd play a bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd play if I had the band, I would do a lot of shit like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on here, man. This was top moment of 2023 for me so far. I so appreciate you, and I can't wait for you to come back to Philadelphia. I saw the Helium calendar doesn't have you on there yet. I'm hoping they get you on there. If you ever want to come back to PJ Ryan's and just sneak in, I know there's a weird agreement with Helium and PJ Ryan's, but like, let me know, dude. That would be sick to have the Godfather of PJ Ryan's come back through. But dude, you're the man.
Thank you, and
you're
also
the best.
You said some really kind things, obviously, through the interview, so I appreciate it. It doesn't fall on. It doesn't. It's heard. So thank you. So I appreciate it.
You're on the Mount Rushmore of Philly comedy, dude. You're on the Mount Rushmore of Philly comedy. So no, I appreciate it, man. I'm going to end this interview, but please go to toddglass.com. Please check out Todd Glass wherever he's touring, and if he gets it and his residency, hopefully in New York, whenever we can get someone to present for him. But please see him live. There's nothing. You'll not see anything ever what Todd Glass does. So thank you, Todd, for being here today.
Thank you. Good talk.
Thank you.
I'll let you get out of here.